Yo, what's up, everybody? Wearing the raincoat. It's raining where I'm at. It's kind of cold in the shed, but this is my place where I get to speak my thoughts without bothering the rest of the house. My name is John McKinney. You've been following me, you know me, but this is my origin story. I kind of want to, a lot of new people meeting you. I kind of want to walk through my story. This is going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to tell it in 5 parts. Um, so, maybe get something warm to drink and listen to me if you want. We'll break it up into pieces later. But this is my story because I want to help you. I figured out what I call the game of life and money, that there's two games being played. The goal of the game of money is to become financially free so that then you can use that money as a tool to play the game of life, which is the primary game. That financial freedom gives you time. And that time is what you want to use when you're playing the game of life, right? It's all about spending time with your loved ones and with the people you care about and helping people and making the world a better place. That's the real game. And so I want to walk you through how you do that while telling you my story. And at the end of all this, there'll be a link and you'll find it in my bio and you're going to see it in everywhere. But I'm starting a collective, a group of people who are looking to move forward in their journeys of life and in money. And I'm there to help them however I can. So check that out at the Stand Store at Money Wizard 003. You'll see a link below. Just click on it or go into my link. So let's get to it, man. You're gonna see me looking at my notes. I'm 43, right? There's a lot that's happened in my life, and so I'm sure I'm gonna miss things. But I took some time to kind of lay it all out, and so I'm just gonna talk to you for a little bit, and you know, enjoy. So we calling this the Money Wizard origin story, the hero's journey of me, John McKinney. Um, I was born in '82 in Brooklyn, Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Born to a 16-year-old mother, and who was part of a larger household. There was my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle, and my aunt. My mom was the oldest of all the siblings. So I was born into that, and then 2 years after me, my brother came. And so in the beginning, it was us, and it was a big house. Um, my grandmother came here in the '50s, and she came here when she was 12. And normally that's when you start junior high school, into high school, and then doing what you do. But her dad was like, "Nah, you gotta stay home and you gotta work." Now I didn't find this out until a year before she died, so you just gotta let that sit in. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I can't imagine 7 years from now telling her that she cannot be a child and go to school, but instead has to be an adult and go make money. So that must have been tough. And if you know my grandmother, she was tough. So just taking a moment, it's the reason why I don't make any excuses and why I'm always determined to keep pushing, because she didn't have the option. And so I'm going to make sure that my kids and my future generations have the option. And now I can maybe help you and make sure you have the options. Um, so we didn't have any money. We grew up such a poor, we were poor, I mean, I didn't know it, but we didn't have any money. Um, but we were always thankful. We always found happiness in each other, regardless of how chaotic and crazy it was. And then before the age of 7, shit got real, real fast. My family got evicted. My grandmother got evicted. She was the one that had the house, the apartment, I should say, in Sunset Park. I think the owners were just selling, and the new owners didn't want us there, and so they gave her some cash, and she had to leave. And um, they couldn't find an apartment for whatever reason. The story's still kind of lost. I'm still trying to find out the details. Um, but for whatever reason, we could not find an apartment, and we were on the street. And I remember being with my mom and my brother and just kind of like going around the neighborhood. And like I said, our whole family lives there. So, I mean, you're talking 30, 50 people if we all got into a room together. So with the graces of God and the generosity of some family members, my mom was able to stay from place to place with me and my brother until she was able to, stabilize and get that job. But that memory, and I don't have a memory of it, but I have the experience, the feeling of it. But I do remember understanding that, oh shit, without money, there's no stability. Like you need the money to eat, and the money was a tool. So pay attention, right? And for whatever reason, I was an observant kid, and so I'm always watching, and so I was able to make that connection, and that connection I'll keep making throughout my whole entire life. And that ability to step back and observe what's happening around me is going to really help me out in the future. Okay, so eventually my mom does stabilize. We get into an apartment. This is around elementary school. I was able to walk to school. It was great. Reading became my like biggest passion and pastime. Right, reading, drawing, and then cause we grew up in the greatest generation ever as a '90s kid now, right? Video games starts to come on the scene, but first reading was everything. Storybooks, Lord of the Rings, any fantasy, dragons, knights. I love that kind of shit. That shit really got to me, and so I loved reading, and my mom always told me that reading and education was the way out. And remember, money, because if you read and get good education, you can get a good job, and then that allows you to make money, which allows you to have a place to live. That was always the thing in my head, almost a fear, right? But also like a push. But because of this like love of all these rich books and drawing, like I was always a happy kid, and I was always being very strategic. And when video games came on the scene, a very type of video game genre really grabbed my attention, and that's RPGs and strategy games. Specifically, these are games where you are playing as a character and you have to manage resources and solve problems to move forward. And it was those experiences that started to spark this spark of like, there's a lot of similarity between how this game world works and how this real world works. And I kept thinking about that for a long time because I kept reading things. I mean, I started going into philosophy books and great American tales and mythology. I loved Greek mythology, Egyptian culture. Like I was reading everything. My mom was also teaching me about what she did for a living. Well, not teaching me, but showing me that work is part of it. And so she was adamant that once we were able to like do something for work, that we do some work. And in the beginning, I would go to her job where she worked as a part of like a management company. And what they did was they paid the rents and the utilities on behalf of buildings. And so there I got to like learn how to fill in checks and how to read a ledger and use my math skills that I realized I had, and really like understood and really kind of loved the office life. And I used to get paid little money. I was a young kid, but I was already making money. And like I said, I didn't grow up with much, but I love video games. And so, in about I think 1997, Nintendo 64 comes out. And if you know anything, if you like me, around my age, you know about the wars, right? You know the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo to the N64, and I will always be a Nintendo. But GoldenEye was one of the greatest games ever on that system. But I remember buying that with some of the money that I had made from that. You know, my mom was like, you want something like that? You got to go buy it yourself. So I saved the cash. I went to a store called Beach Street down in Fulton in Brooklyn. That's where you bought all your music. Albums used to come out once a week, but they also sold electronics there. So I bought the system in cash. It's about $2 something. It was a lot of money for a kid, you know, in 1997. But, you know, I grew up as a latchkey kid, which means for the most of my life, I was outside because my parents worked, and they was like, you gotta get out the house. And so, you know, I played basketball. I used to go to public school lunch, go back outside, and all my cousins were doing the same thing because everybody lived the same life. So it was fantastic. I mean, I loved it. But before I get lost, so I was very street smart. You knew like where the crazy people were, what not to do, how to handle shit, how to scope out where danger is, and things like that. We're a little bit more resilient. But I knew that there's no way in hell I'm gonna walk on the street with a Nintendo 64 box as a 15-year-old kid, and that nobody's gonna leave me alone. Somebody's gonna press me for this. So I brought a black garbage bag, wrapped the whole thing up in that, took that in the train, went straight home. I think it was a Friday. And I just plugged that into a TV that I had in my room, and my mom didn't see me for 4 days. She couldn't say nothing because I bought it, so she was like, all right, whatever, you know? And that like clicked it. Independence. When you make your own money, nobody can tell you what to do. You're sovereign. And it's because you worked. Like you earned that right through work. You create value in your environment, and that environment repays you back in money or value. Because value can be expressed many ways, but we express it here as money. And so I started making that lesson and, you know, enjoying life and enjoying video games. So like I said, I'm 14, so I'm in high school at this time, and I go to Brooklyn Tech. Brooklyn Tech is one of the specialized high schools. Because I'm good in reading and math, engineering was just like a no-brainer for me. I just graduated towards that. I was very, I didn't really like have to study anything, so I remember just showing up for the test, taking it, I got enough points to get in. People thought I cheated. People always think I cheat because sometimes the way I looked, the way my family looked, they didn't think a person like me that looked like me or looked like them could be that smart. But to this day, I just keep laughing. I laugh all the way to the bank. I laugh all the way to the wonderful meals and blessings I get and the richness in my family. But anyway, that's a side comment. I'm in high school. And I loved it there, right? I mean, I loved it in the beginning, but I started getting disillusioned by school. All the rules, I gotta go here, I gotta go there, you gotta take this kind. I already learned how to make money. I just kind of wanted to do my own thing and hang out. But it was important because I would learn certain skills in that engineering school, like how to reverse engineer things, like that process, and how to write, very important skill sets, and critical thinking, which is super big, right? It's the only reason why I'm standing here today, even successful. If you can't critical think, you're dead in the water, man. So it also leads me to my future wife. And long story short, I drop out of high school because I'm terrible. I don't go. I just hang out. I mean, I got 45s, right? I mean, I had a teacher one time, like the few that I passed, I remember a teacher told me, I'll pass you if you can come up here and teach the class. Class was something about algebra. I said, no problem. Like, it's not a matter of me not knowing what's going on. It's just like, this is a waste of my time. And I was kind of a smart ass about it. But anyway, at that time, these books come out, Rich Dad Poor Dad and The Matrix is kind of out in the movie theaters. Both of those are kind of similar in kind of what they teach you, okay? Rich Dad Poor Dad taught me that there's a perspective, that there's another way of living, that rich people, people with money, think differently than poor people. And, not to have like a stigma about it, not get defensive about it, just learn. And so there's a different mentality and mindset. Richness starts in the brain, and then you start to influence the world around you and then make the world rich is why you have riches. Starts in here first. Starts in here first, and then it goes out. Just remember that. But I thought I seen the illusion, that people are trying to control how you're thinking, and so that plays a very important role as you start moving on. I start out in the field of graphic design because I love to draw, but being stable and being on my own was very important, and so I got kind of scared about the rise of computers and it doing my job, and so I went and learned accounting, using my math skills, and that would be my whole career for the next 25 years. I move out my house at 19. I end up saving $5,000, which was a shit ton of money back then because I had to pay for a stupidly large deposit because who wants to rent to a kid? Well, my girlfriend, soon to be wife, happens to know somebody who's like, sure, I'll rent you, but you gotta give me XYZ. So I gave them all that money, and then I gave my mom some money and said, peace out, I'm going on my own. 19 years old, left. Started working as a security guard first, and then went into accounting as an accounting clerk, then just ran up the ranks. Went, up to, as an accounting clerk though, I got to be the second to the CFO. So I got CFO training for the first 3 years of my whole life. I tried, I got a GED. I probably skipped that part. I dropped out of high school because I couldn't take it no more. I got my GED, used that GED to go into community college. I went there and basically, instead of really getting education, I took one class in accounting, which was enough to get me in the door. It really was just a little bit of a game between getting student loan money and using that to survive, right? But I'll pay that price and I'll pay it and it's fine. It's all over. I don't have any debt now. Where was I? The accounting and the career. So I started moving up. So I started understanding the language of money. I'm like, oh shit, the whole world revolves around money, and I can see how every transaction moves and seeing how it moves the pockets. And I'm like, this is what they were talking about in the books. And then, I started trying to, on my own, in my early 20s, start trying to figure this out, put something. And those who know me remember I was trying to do some things. Then things get serious. I want to, I proposed to my girlfriend, then wife, soon-to-be wife, and I'm around, I'm 30 years old at this time, having been worked in finance the entire time, making up to six figures, working in advertising, and you can check my LinkedIn and you can see all that. But I made money. I was making money, and we were living in Queens and Forest Hills, and man, it was fantastic, right? But we sat down ready to get serious, and for the first time in our entire life, we decided to list out everything. List out how much we owe and how much we own. Because we wanted to plan about getting married, and we started thinking about life, about having kids and buying a house, and yada, yada, yada. And we put this together, and I realized that I was negative $11,000 in debt. Two people, each making more than six figures, all they got to show after like from 20 to 30 was negative $11,000. And I was pissed off, man. I was pissed off and I was confused. I said, where did we go wrong? Where the fuck did we go wrong? I discovered Dave Ramsey. I discovered his plan, and he was all aggressive about getting out of debt. And I was like, that's what we got to do. We got to get out of debt. And we did that. We got real aggressive. And I think it took us, I got to check my notes again because I have all this down. But it took us like the first 5 to 7 years. People were laughing at us like, yo, you make money. Why you living like this, like poor? It's like we was paying. And we did it. But I didn't really know where to go from there. And Dave Ramsey wasn't really answering the call for me. He started telling me to go to God and go to church, and that's the reason why I work. So I'm like, listen, I want to know what's happening here. And then it hits me. Then I discovered that this game was all around debt. It was all around debt, right? If you want to go to school, student loan debt. If you want to get married, credit card debt. If you want to get a car lease. If you want to get a house, mortgage. America just sells you debt. That's the game. You don't have to go that route, but that's the only route they tell you. But now I was going anti-debt, and so that forced me to have to go a new route. And so I really started to sit down and start to develop my own frameworks. And that's when the shift was happening. That's when the transformation was happening. That's when I understood. I discovered Maslow, another kid from Brooklyn. Maslow from the 40s discovers that life is like a pyramid. He wanted to know what moves people and what makes them happy. He discovered Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and he's, at the bottom is survival. And then after survival was your relationships, and then it's about self-discovery and self-learning and self-empowerment, and then it's about purpose and service. You find this and you go, oh, that sounds like more like it. And money, what I call the game of money, was the technology we created to help us play this game that we've been playing for eternity, and it's been changing through the time. Today it looks very different than it did 100 years ago, than it did 10,000 years ago, than it did 100,000 years ago, right? But that's my origin story, right? That's where it came from. We ended up going debt-free, and just by getting intentional. But what we really did was we did what we call a cash plan. We made a plan every month using what I call the money rule of 3. We saved, we spend, and we invested every single month. The spending was minimum. We were spending on paying off debt. We were saving just enough for the emergency fund, and then we were saving the minimum in our 401k, investing in our minimums in our 401ks to take advantage of the 401k match. Besides that, every dollar aggressively going towards debt. And what happens when you do that is that then releases the money, and then you can do what you really want to do. So I don't want to get into the money thing. I want to go into my life story. And so some Maslow framework. All right, so now we start being a little bit more intentional about life. I'm about like 35 now, okay? And my wife and me and my wife are talking constantly, dreaming about the future. Now we're being intentional, okay? Which these actions have become part of a framework. We started making a vision, and that's step 1 in my framework. Is have a vision. We start thinking about the future. And she really wanted to have a family, wanted to live in a house, and wanted to live somewhere where like the weather was nice, and that possibly she can stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. And as the husband, that's what I want. I want to provide for her. And so I wanted to do that. So it was like we started thinking about it. Like, how can we do that? Can't do this in New York. New York, you need about 200 grand to buy a house. And I'm talking about in 2015, around there. It was crazy. And so we discovered North Carolina. We discovered Charlotte. We invent remote working before remote working was a thing. We digitize our jobs. We communicate and plan with our jobs accordingly, and we're able to completely move our family, me and my wife, to North Carolina with New York jobs, and so that allowed us to literally change our geography because we became intentional. So now we have the nice weather. Now the cost of living was less. Now we're able to use that money to get a house. So we're able to buy a house. And now we have two beautiful children, and I'm a father and she's a mother, and we actually have it. I've been home every day since they were born. Something I never had. I didn't grow up with my dad. My dad had his own struggles and journeys he was going through. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know? And so now I'm sitting here with kids thinking about, now I need to teach them this stuff. And this is why I'm here. This is my experiment, my trials that I'm going to get all of these thoughts out so I can put it all in one place. So then I can just share this with them and free them. Because this stuff really, really works, man. My life is a living representation of it. I discovered the game of life and the game of money. And then I figure out that if we put this, you know, I figured out that it works as like a system. You just follow these steps and the output is your great life. As long as you're willing to put in the time and effort. Right? I call it the freedom formula, which basically is you take the money rule of 3, you do those things every day, every month, for 10, 15, 20, 35 years, and the output will be your dream life. I guarantee it. Now I have something called the 7 steps that we go through and join the collective to see that. But that's my life. This is where I am now. I'm in my shed, you know. Oh, let me tell you about the newest stuff, just within the last 14 months. 14 months ago, we are at the peak of this process, okay? And my wife is like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit my advertising career and stay home full time. And I was like, let's do it. I got this. We figured it out. We saved some money for her to do her thing, and we were ready to do it. She quit on a Friday. She had a great party. Monday morning, I get a meeting invite, and I get that meeting invite from a person I've never seen. And they look at a screen, and they go, we are sorry to inform you that your position is no longer structured in... And you're like, blah, blah, blah. And you just realize you just got laid off. Your wife has no job. What do? I was angry, scared, panicking, all kinds of things, man. For the next 3 months, I would aggressively search and not get any luck because the world is changing. And I sat back and, you know, had time to really reflect. And we were looking at our numbers and realized, yo, we've been running hard. And all of a sudden we realized that we had built up, while I'm not at where I want to be, which is 1 million plus, we are on the cusp. And we already have built enough wealth where the wealth can start replacing some income, not all of it. So we're like quasi in the middle. It's so much so that for the last 13 months, me and my wife have been able to concentrate on the family. But we're people, we need to do something. So now we're trying to work on the money wizard, which is because we're in 2025, technology is changing. I've been able to play with AI for the last 13 months, and the world's incredible. And so I'm building and I'm training an AI based on all of these philosophies so that you can just go in and you can ask your questions and it will help you. And you don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars of financial advisors and fees who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Okay, guys? So I hope you enjoyed that story a bit. I am definitely going to add some videos and make it much more visually appealing. But that was a very long piece. I'm going to put it out there like that. and then we're gonna chop it up and make sense of all of it if it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I'm sorry, but please, I hope that was kind of entertaining, kind of educational, maybe giving a little hope about maybe what you might need to go through. And I just want to remind you, I want to teach you all the things I did to get to that whole thing that I just talked about. Because too many people are upset, and too many people are depressed, and too many people are like ready to fucking burn the bridges down and the flag down. It's like, no, whoa, 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 whoa. Things are fucked up, but there's another way, man. And I'm gonna teach you with the collective, and we're all gonna just make money and make love together, or make love in a way that my wife would appreciate, in the hugs and kisses of the world, that kind of way. So, mad love to you guys. I thank you for the time. Click on the link. If you thought it was you want to support me, just click on that link and you'll see what I mean, and that will support me and let me keep going on this endeavor and helping you. So thank you guys.